Leadership is hard. Titles change overnight, expectations pile up fast, and nobody hands you a survival map. That's why Leadership on the Rocks exists. Hi, I'm Bethany Rees, leadership coach, author, and speaker. And for 2 decades, I've been equipping leaders to navigate the wild, unpredictable terrain of leading people. Whether you're a new leader trying to find your footing or a seasoned leader trying to reclaim clarity, this podcast gives you the tools, truth, and encouragement you need to thrive in both your professional and personal lives. Each week, I sit down with leaders who have weathered storms, climbed mountains, and learned what it takes to lead without losing yourself in the process. If you're ready to build steady, grounded, life-giving leadership, this is your place. Let's climb together.
I could spend days sharing with you all of the hard-fought lessons that I have learned over the years. But a lot of those lessons started and ended with me. You can't change an organization if you don't first look at yourself in the mirror. And leading with hope is an intentional practice of self-awareness. We're building self-awareness through self-reflection.
This is the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, where we equip and empower leaders like you to thrive in and create harmony between your professional and personal lives. I'm your host, Bethany Rees, and in today's episode, we're going to be talking with Dr. Brandi Kelly about the power of hope, or how leaders can foster resilience, joy, and connection with their teams. Dr. Brandi Kelly brings 20 plus years of heart, hustle, and hands-on leadership and education. She is a licensed clinical social worker and a Maxwell certified coach who has served as a school social worker, principal, and superintendent. Recognized with Elementary Principal of the Year Award and Middle School Principal of the Year Award, Brandi is also the founder of Spark Hope EDU. Through her hope system, habits, optimistic outlook, purpose, and excellence, she shares the good stuff. We're talking hope, love, and joy. Her mission is to equip leaders to build resilient schools and communities where people feel seen, heard, and valued. Welcome to the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, Dr. Kelly. Brandi, so excited to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show today, Bethany. I've been looking forward to this.
And all right, so for those of you that don't know, I'm going to call you Brandi. We are actually fast becoming friends. We've had virtual coffees plenty of times. I know you're in Illinois and I'm in Arkansas, but you and I are cut from the same cloth, sister. So
Absolutely.
I'm so excited to have you here. And I got to say, you talk about things that I don't hear a lot of leaders talking about, and yet it is so important. You talk about hope. You talk about love, you talk about joy, you talk about these things that we don't often equate with leadership. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited to have you on the show, because you and I have been, hanging out and becoming fast friends. I'm getting to learn more about this. I'm like, every leader needs this. Come on the show. Talk to me about it. So I'm so excited to have you here and talk about hope. All right. So for those out there being like, who's Hope? Where is she? I don't know what she is. Can you just give us like an umbrella working definition? What is hope?
That's a great question, Bethany. And I appreciate you asking me that question, because for me, the definition of hope is rooted in my faith. And it comes from a scripture that my mom frequently quoted when my brother Brandon drowned. And that's Romans 8:28. And it says in the Bible that we know that in all things, God works for the good of those who love him and are called in accordance to his purpose. So my heart's desire is to find purpose in the pain that we dealt with as a family. And, that happened many, many years ago. I was 15. My brother Brandon was a 7th grader. He and my little brother Dustin went on a horseback ride on a Saturday afternoon. And I was getting ready for prom. I frequently say that I felt like Cinderella because that was my chore. Every week I had to clean the house. And it was no different on that rainy Saturday afternoon. I had to clean the house before I could go to prom. And just as I was finishing cleaning the house that day, my little brother Dustin ran into the kitchen and he said, "Bub fell in the creek." We called Brandon Bub. That was his nickname. And we really didn't think a whole lot of it because the creek in our mind was just a small body of water. It was something that we waded in whenever, we were playing as kids. And so my mom and dad went to look for him with Dustin. They sent me on to prom. My aunt came and took pictures, did the whole thing. And we didn't have cell phones back then. You know, it was in the 1900s. I'm getting older. But I got to prom and somebody said, her brother's dead and she's at prom. And my heart sunk. I went to the bathroom and I was crying and I had to compose myself. And then my prom date, a friend of mine who took me to prom, he said, let's go to the bridge and find out what's going on. Well, when we got there, it was like a scene out of a movie. There were news vans lining the bridge that was over the creek. Townspeople were on both sides of the creek looking for my brother. And it was one of the most difficult, painful periods of my life. But out of that tragedy emerged goodness. That was my first glimpse of hope. So when we found Brandon on Monday afternoon, people just showed up for me and my family. The people that searched for him day and night. He went in on a Saturday afternoon in that creek on his horse, and we didn't find him until Monday. People were there that whole time searching for Brandon. People were there comforting my parents, helping them, making sure they were eating. And then his classmates, the seventh graders that sat in those rows in those classes with him all of those years, they made a memory book. They boarded a bus during a school day and came to the funeral. They checked on us after the funeral was over. You know, seventh graders came to the house and were like, hey, how are you guys doing? It's just amazing when you see people showing up for you. And so for me, that definition of hope started with just the goodness that are in everyday people, in the everyday actions that we take to support and to show up for one another. We are wired. God wired us for connection. And when terrible things happen, sometimes it requires a terrible thing to happen to see the goodness in people, but they do. They show up for you. And I believe that all things will turn out for good for those who are called in accordance to his purpose. And that's exactly what Spark Hope EDU means to me. And that's what my system of hope means as well.
Man, I thank you for sharing your story. Just to go through the pain, I can't even fathom, what that was like. But to have you here sharing your story, your family story, and now your testimony, your message, of just you experienced the worst possible thing, and yet out of that, you have found hope, you have found goodness. And while so many people listening maybe some of them have experienced some traumatic event, but maybe some are just experiencing overwhelming stress.
Yeah.
I love that you talked about, you called it pain. There's purpose in the pain, and it
Mhm.
is for good. It can turn God uses it for good. And so I'm so excited that you are here to encourage everyone listening, whether they've been through trauma and traumatic events or they're just overwhelmed with stress, whatever it is, whatever situation they're going through, they can find purpose in the pain and they can find hope. So let's dive in. You have a framework of hope, and
Yes.
I kind of glossed over it a little bit in the intro, but it's actually an acronym. So can you just dive in, teach us, oh wise one, what is your framework of hope and how can we use it to turn our pain into purpose and just grow our leadership?
Well, I have to start out by saying that I believe there are three sources of hope. One is that sense of hope, like on, a snowy day and the kids are looking out the window and they're looking forward to going sledding with their parents or their friends or whatever. That sense, that anticipation on Christmas morning, waiting to unwrap the presents. Anticipation, that is one form of hope or one source of hope. The other is, and I believe this is the most important source of hope, I find my hope in my faith, in my Savior, in Jesus Christ. And so that is the source of hope in my life. And then finally, I have created a system of hope. And my system of hope, as an educator, I had to have structure. I had to have some sort of a system to help me to really put form to what I needed to do each and every day to optimize my leadership and my life. And so the H in hope stands for habits. And habits are what ground us. Habits are those small, consistent actions that we put into practice each and every day that help us to show up as the best version of ourselves. For instance, whenever you get to work in the morning, you have a choice. You can either open your email and start there and go down that spiral of negativity that it could
Yep.
potentially present to you, or you can create some intentions for the day. You can ground yourself in maybe some deep breathing and setting intentions for your day and visualize the day that you want to unfold in front of you. And I believe that will help you to cultivate that life and that leadership that you envision. And then the O is optimistic outlook. For me, that's mindset. Everything starts
Oh,
in your
yes.
mind, the battlefield of your mind. And we are wired for survival. That's the fight or flight mode. And talking to so many leaders as I was writing my book and as I have been doing leadership coaching in this season of my life, what I am learning is that there are so many people who are just flooded by cortisol each and every day, that stress hormone, because they're in that fight or flight mode. And we have to make some changes in our mindset and start focusing on reframing obstacles into opportunities, or calming the chaos by implementing some of those habits and some of those exercises and practices that I talk about in my book, because it all starts in the mind. I read some research recently and it said that 70 to 80% of our thoughts are negative, and of those negative thoughts, they're on a loop. So if you do a thought journal and just, as the Bible says, take captive your thoughts. Look at your thoughts. What are the patterns? Because in those patterns, you will begin to see themes. And a lot of times, those themes, and this is where the clinical social work part of me comes in, those themes are rooted in issues that you have not yet mastered, issues that you have not yet went through, dealt with, and healed from. And I've talked to some people, and maybe that theme is they don't feel worthy. They feel like they're the imposter sitting in this chair and they're just showing up and trying not to be found out. Or maybe they're afraid that people are going to abandon them and they're not going to have a circle of support to help them in their life and their leadership. And if we're operating out of that fear mode instead of love mode, and our mindset is rooted in fear, you are not going to be able to create the life that you envision for yourself. And I've got to stop there and just say, if you've envisioned that life for yourself, because that's the first step. Talking to leaders, I have found that many of them are just, there's so much coming onto their plate. There's so many issues. They don't take time to really dream and to think about, what is the life I envision? What is the legacy I want to lead? So once again, it all starts in the mind, and we have to take captive our thoughts and create that life, envision that life first and foremost that we want to lead. And then
I
the
think
P, go ahead, Bethany.
I was just going to say, I think that's so, so smart because, if you don't have vision, if you don't have that hope, right? The
Mhm.
vision of anticipation of this is what we're working towards, it's coming, it's going to get here, we're making small
Yes.
steps for it. Then you're showing up and just doing a job, doing
Mhm.
my 8 and hit the gate. There's
Yeah,
no purpose behind that. And that is mundane. And I just feel like a zombie showing up like the Walking Dead, just doing the
absolutely.
same thing every day for no purpose. So
Yeah,
I love it. So habits, optimistic outlook, and now we're going into the P of hope. What is the
the
P?
P. The P is the trifecta. It's three parts: purpose, passion, and perseverance. So
Mm.
the purpose is connecting to your why. So in schools and organizations, we've heard Simon Sinek say, you know, what is your why? And talking about the why and the how. Well, the P for me with purpose, yes, you have to tap into your why. For me, I went into education because my brother Brandon drowned, and I saw how those educators and that school community showed up for us, and I wanted to give back. So that was kind of my why for pursuing a profession in education. You've got to go back and think about that. What is your why? Why is it important that you keep showing up and doing this work? Because if your why is not rooted in a deep sense of purpose, it's going to be hard to overcome the challenges and the obstacles that it's not if you face them, it's when you face them. Let's be real. It's
Ooh, can you
going to
say that
happen.
again? That's a truth everybody needs to like sit and just chew on. Say that one more
Yes.
time.
It's not if you're going to face challenges or obstacles or hardship, it's when you face them. And as the leader, if we have that deep sense of purpose, we are casting a vision out of that purpose. And if our vision and our values and our mission, if that is all aligned with the organization's vision, values, and mission, we're all going in the same direction. And that's how you gain momentum.
Absolutely.
So
Man,
the
purpose, got it. What's the next
purpose,
one?
passion. So I'm a working genius facilitator, and I love working genius. Patrick Lencioni created this assessment, and he says that we all have two working geniuses, two competencies, and two frustrations. Okay. If we spend time doing what fuels our passions, our energy is not going to be drained as, and if we don't, we are going to be, it's drained. Our energy is going to be drained. So when you think about passions, we need to almost take an energy audit of what fuels our passions, what drains our energies, and how do we protect our peace. So that passion piece is just doing what really lights you up. And then finding out in your team, what are your other teammates' working geniuses or strengths, or however you want to categorize that or name that, whatever vocabulary you want to use. But then delegate, and delegate well. Don't delegate the tasks, delegate the responsibilities, and then allow them to run with it out of their purpose and their passions. And then that just allows us, Bethany, to persevere. If we are cultivating that purpose and that passion, we are going to be able to persevere. And in today's society, I call those three things grit. We have to have grit to lead ourselves well and to lead others well.
Man, those are so good. The three P's. I just want to go, please listen. Purpose, passion, perseverance. I
Yes,
mean, these are so true. Whenever you have purpose, you just have a reason to wake up in the morning. Whenever you have passion and you're going and working in an area where you feel equipped and called and qualified and all those things, I mean, you're feeling so confident and good, not arrogant confident, but like a humble confidence.
right.
And whenever you, and I love it, this goes back to what you said earlier, when you face challenges, not if, but when you do, you have so much momentum behind your purpose and your passion, you're going to
Yes.
persevere. You're going to overcome it. It's all tied together. And I just think it's perfect. Thank you.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Well, and then that brings me to the E, Bethany. E is for excellence, and that's that life you envision. That's your, that's your North Star. You are going to that direction. Now, I do have to say that you learn a little and you do a little. I believe that's one of those sayings that we hear in the Maxwell certification process. Do a little, learn a little, do a little, learn a little. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes we set a course for ourselves and God laughs.
Guilty as charged, ma'am.
Same.
God, did you
Same.
not get a copy of the book that I
No,
wrote for my life? Because you're not following it very well.
exactly. I tried to tell God what
Yeah.
my life was going to look like. I was going to be, a school social worker for 10 years. And then I was going to be a principal for the rest of my career in my home school. That was the end goal. But God had other plans, and he took me to other districts, and the experiences that I learned through that process, I would have probably never learned otherwise. And the people I met in the process, that's where all the goodness happens, right? It's the people, not the programs, not the schools, not the organizations. It's the people that God allows you to do life with. And, for me, excellence is just getting 1% better every day, not comparing myself against you, because you and I are gifted differently. We have different strengths to bring to the table, but it's just looking at my progress and seeing the blessings and the lessons that God has presented me with in my life, and just getting a little bit better every day and going forth and just doing the best that I can to equip other people out of the pains, out of the lessons, out of the blessings, out of my life, sharing my story, sharing my testimony, and spreading hope so that people know that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are called in accordance to his purpose.
If you're enjoying the Leadership on the Rocks podcast, be sure to subscribe and follow so you don't miss a single episode. And also, please rate the show. We hope to earn 5 stars in serving you in leadership. And through your ratings, it'll help us get the word out about what we do here at Leadership on the Rocks. Now, back to the show. It's so good. I love, and that's why, I said this at the beginning. Not a lot of leaders are talking about this.
Right.
You have so many people going up to do daily battle in their work, whatever it is, whatever it is that they're trying to do, they're constantly faced with problems, conflicts, constraints all the time. And, it can feel like just this hanging, I don't know, weight around us that just is dragging us down to where we're losing hope that I'm making a difference, hope that, I'm actually showing up and making the world a better place. And we all have that innate desire in us. And you're bringing that back into leadership. And that's why I think your book and your framework and what you do to go in to organizations is helping us find that, back within ourselves, I guess, having that hope, building the habits that we, can to have that optimistic outlook, capture our thoughts so that we're not walking around negative and, always telling ourselves stories. And that leads to a bigger emotional reaction whenever we come to challenges. And
Right.
then bringing back what is your purpose within, your leadership role in your organization? How can you get 1% better every day for excellence? And I just think so much of what we do, we try to, and I'm going to call myself guilty on this. As a leader, whenever you're in an organization, we look for a magic pill, a magic bullet, a magic program, specifically the third one. We're like, oh, this technological program that we got sold on is going to fix all of our issues. But it's not fixing the internal issue, and that's the main one. We have so many things internally that we have to overcome, and your framework for hope makes the leader deal with themselves on the inside.
Yeah.
So that true transformation can happen. Because I think transformation, I know that's a huge buzzword in it doesn't matter the industry you're in, it's a buzzword for leadership. Transformation, that is from the inside out, from the bottom up. We cannot get it backwards. It's not from the outside in. There is no program that you can do. And it's definitely not from top down. It's bottom up and it's inside out. And I love that that's what you're bringing to the table. So help us, where do we even start to build this hope within our leadership so we can have this personal transformation?
I have to quote another scripture. It comes from Proverbs. Out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So the inside out proposition here, oftentimes whenever things are not going well, it's often a heart problem. It's a me problem, right? And I have had plenty of me problems as a leader over the years, 25 years in education. I could probably spend days sharing with you all of the hard fought lessons that I have learned over the years. But a lot of those lessons started and ended with me. You can't change an organization if you don't first look at yourself in the mirror. And leading with hope is an intentional practice of self-awareness. We're building self-awareness through self-reflection so that we can build our confidence, our connections, and our courage. And so starting with the heart, that's where you do it. And I do that through key assessments. Some of the self-awareness assessments that I utilize, I talked a little bit about Working Genius. I like the Enneagram. I like the DISC. All of those assessments help us to see our fears, our blind spots, our motivations, our desires. And then we have to deal with that. We have to identify the areas where we need a personalized growth plan. Change starts with me.
Yeah.
Change starts with me. And that, I'm using me reflectively. It starts with the leader, and you have to take those assessments and really identify the areas that you need to work on you.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many meetings I've sat in where the leader of the group, and this could be from the top of the organization to just a collaborative meeting of individual contributors, right? Like,
Right.
teachers, for example, in education, or just, entry level people. Whenever you get them together, they're complaining usually about
Mhm.
someone else. It's
Right.
the reason there's a problem is not me. It's
Mhm.
because they. And I've heard that from, again, entry level positions all the way to the top, the people who are running the organization. And there's the pattern there. You talked about a pattern in our mind. And I think we are so duped by our thoughts,
Mhm.
that lead to these big feelings. But also, we look for those scapegoats of, I don't have to do the internal work because it's not me, it's them.
Mhm.
And I just love it that you're calling us out and saying it's not a them problem.
It's not. It's
It,
not. And I don't care who you are listening to this, whether it's Bethany Rees or if it's Brandi Kelly or whomever is listening to this podcast, there is work that we need to do. And the first person that we need to examine as we are considering the changes that need to be made in our schools, in our organizations, in whatever group you're working in, is yourself.
yeah.
Because change starts with you as the individual. And then depending on the health that you are bringing to that group as the leader, that's the
Mm,
lid.
yeah.
That's as high as they can go. And so to build capacity, that's the first step.
Man, have to build the capacity for leadership for ourselves, right? I love it that you're talking about John Maxwell's law of the lid, right?
Yes, yes.
If we're out of, and I love the way John Maxwell talks about this.
Mhm.
If, let's say there's 10 levels, but if you're a level 5, the people underneath you can never grow above a level 5 because you're the lid to their growth. And so
Right.
you as the leader have to constantly stay humble. I just can't even point out the amount of humility, like you talked about self-reflection in this.
Mhm.
Be humble and say, I can always get better. I can always grow. I am
Right.
not the end all be all of leaders. And there's so much arrogance and pride. I think throughout the entire Bible, throughout the entire history of society, and I have a history degree, so I've done a lot of world history classes. Pride and arrogance is the downfall of so much. There's another Bible verse, right?
Yep.
Pride
Yep.
cometh before the fall.
It
And you
does.
have to do the self-reflection. And I love it that you're saying, all right, leaders, look at the system of hope, right? You've got to do some self-reflection, you've got to do the work,
Right.
and you've got to grow yourself. But then you also say, leadership is really now, once you're starting to work on yourself inward, start helping people feel seen, heard, and valued. So can we
Yes.
now that we've talked about the inward work
Mhm.
that we need to do with hope,
Yeah.
and we start saying, okay, now that I'm building hope within myself and I'm growing myself, how can I start
Mhm.
pouring out goodness, pouring positive things into the team in which I lead?
Yeah. And I can't really talk about this without talking about two of the major influences in my leadership around this whole topic of being seen, heard, and valued. When I was a principal at Ramsey Grade School, we decided to embark on the Leader in Me journey. And so that's a Franklin Covey program, and it is rooted in the 7 habits of used to hear about it as 7 habits of highly effective people, and then they had 7 habits of highly effective teens. Well, Leader and Me took it down to 7 habits of happy kids. And
Hmm.
so in our schools, we were teaching our kiddos the 7 habits. Things like be proactive, that, going back to change starts with me,
Yeah.
and seek first to understand before being understood. Um, there's 7 of them, and I won't go into all of them here because of time, But that was a huge influence because before you could teach those concepts to the kids as the adults, we had to learn them and we had to implement them authentically and ubiquitously across the curriculum.
You mean you had to practice what you were fixing to preach or
That's
teach?
right. That's right. Yes. And it was a requirement. There was intensive training for the entire staff before we even taught them. And then for the first year, we didn't teach the curriculum, we just lived the concepts. Okay.
Mm.
And we built the systems to sustain the work. That was a huge influence on my early leadership, and it's always stuck. It is probably, I always say it's the people, not the programs, that make schools great. But in this instance, this is a pretty great program that with the right people, you can make significant changes in school improvement plans, in initiatives, in culture and climate, in so many ways. So that was an early influence. And then another one was Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I hate to admit this, and I have admitted it to my husband. I'm trying to be more humble. I'm working on that part of my person. But my husband has always been really good to say, people just they want to know that they're important. And after reading that book, I shared with my husband, honey, you were right. People want to feel valued and they want to feel important. And with the issues we're dealing with in schools, people are leaving in droves. Why are they leaving? A lot of people like to cite that they're leaving because of too many tasks, too many duties, too much being added to their plate. And while all of that is true, I would argue that people are leaving because they don't feel important. They don't feel like they matter to the school or to the organization. And so as we implement a system of hope to build people's self-efficacy, their confidence, their inward knowledge that I am worthy, I am enough, I can do this, we also have to turn that outward and create that collective teacher efficacy that John Hattie talks about, and build the capacity in our organization so that we are holding hope for other people until they can hold hope for themselves.
I love it.
It's Stephen Covey talks about we have to see the greatness in other people before they can see it in themselves.
It's so true. And can I clarify real quickly? Efficacy, we talk about that a lot in education circles, but for those of you in different industries,
Mhm.
efficacy is the belief that you make a difference, the belief that you can, make positive change happen. And so for
Yep.
teacher efficacy, I believe that no matter where this student comes into my classroom, whatever, let's go with reading level, it's very easy, right? Whatever
Mhm.
reading level they're at, I'm going to add value to that child. I believe
Yes.
that I can make a difference. And
Mhm.
so efficacy is that belief. And you don't have belief without hope, right? That you're
Don't.
making a difference. And so it's all connected. And so
Yeah.
I would ask you, just based on everything Brandy is saying, do you have efficacy? Do you have belief that whatever
Mhm.
role you're serving in, that you're making a difference? Even if you're the one that is serving the coffee, cleaning the bathrooms, filing the report, and it seems like mundane work, your
Yeah.
organization probably couldn't thrive without it, couldn't,
Yeah.
function, couldn't serve. So there's always a purpose no matter what the role is.
Mhm.
But do you have that belief, that efficacy? So thank you so much for bringing that up. And I think it's a great point, and I hope people learn more about that.
Yeah. And it is, Bethany, you said that so well. It's that belief. We foster a belief, and everybody that we interact with, they can tell by the way that we're just the vibes we're putting off, our nonverbal language, our verbal, communication. Um, they can see if we believe in them or not. And
Mhm.
based on that power of belief, we're either building capacity or diminishing it. We're either fostering that confidence in those people or we're telling them that they can't do it. And the power of belief is so, so huge in helping people to realize their full potential.
It is so true. What you're making me think of is just as a leader, imagine yourself walking into a room. You're
Mhm.
never bringing neutral energy with you. You are
Right.
either bringing positive energy or negative energy.
Yep.
It's not neutral. So, depending on your internal thoughts, your hope, your internal everything with that hope system.
Yeah.
Whenever you come in, if it's high, you're going to be bringing the positive energy that's pouring now into others of, hey, I believe in you. And you need to believe in you too. And before you know it, they're believing in themselves. And just imagine, that stacked champagne glasses. I'm not fancy like that, but I've seen it on TV. All those
Yeah.
stacked champagne glasses, and they pour it in the top champagne and just rolls down. It cascades to all the others. That's what I pray that you bring to your team as a leader is that
Right.
cascading of positively, things. And I'm not talking charismatic leadership. I'm not talking personality where you have to walk in and be like, "Hey, how are you doing? I believe in
Right.
you." That's not what I'm talking about. It's
No.
it's your internal just dealings with how you engage with others, but it starts from the inside. Whatever you have on the inside, if you have nothing but muck and yuck on the
Mhm.
inside, you're bringing negativity and that's what you're pouring out. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you were on my podcast recently and we talked about the fact that it all starts at home.
mhm.
So the relationships you have at home, the way you are leading yourself at home, that's where all of this starts. And you don't hear this said much in leadership circles, but we're either we're either leading with love or we're leading with fear. And I think that if you are showing up and you truly love your people, the people that you're serving, the people that you're leading, the people that you're helping grow in your school or organization, it's going to show. And the converse is true as well. And I hate to admit it, Bethany, but I have led in schools where it was so easy to love the people I led because they just exuded goodness. They were caring and they were compassionate and they always showed up for each other. That's how it felt to me. And then I've led in school districts where the opposite was true, where it was not easy to love. Now, I always strive to be kind, but
Mhm.
if I'm being honest, I did not always love the people that I led because some people are hard to love, but it is those people that probably need love the most, just like our students
Mhm.
that show up with behavioral problems. The ones that are most difficult to love are the ones that need the most love.
Yeah, absolutely. You are so spot. So
Mhm.
we've talked about hope. Now we're kind of going into love and joy. Again, things that most
Yeah.
leadership circles aren't talking about, and yet it makes all the difference in the world.
Mhm.
And so we don't hear those words in leadership spaces, joy, love,
Right.
but how can we bring those qualities into our places of work? How can we, do we walk around and look at our, team members and be like, I love you, man. I love you, sis, or I mean, like, what does that look like for real? I don't, let's talk about
Right.
application of love and joy and what that looks like in the actual workplace.
Yeah. The application is very simple. We tend to overcomplicate things, but in application, what this looks like is maybe as a principal, you're standing at the front door and you are greeting your students and your staff as they come in. Not just that singular focus on one or the other, but you're cultivating that community and that family vibe, that love vibe by authentically connecting with them, each and every one of them by their first name as they come in. Did you know that the sweetest word in the English language is to you, Bethany, is Bethany? It's
No,
your name.
what?
Yeah, it's your name. The sweetest word in your language is your name.
I
People love
believe
to
it.
be called by their name.
Hmm.
And when you can learn their names and connect with them authentically, I'm not saying fake it. I'm not saying, oh, Bethany, I love your outfit today or your hair looks amazing. If you mean it, yeah, say it. But
Yeah.
don't fake it. Be authentic because people can spot a fake a mile away. So that's the first step. That's just a very simple thing that you can do each and every day.
And you know what it made me think of? It goes back to something you said. I feel like everything you're talking about is connected.
Mhm.
But you talked about how as leaders, we have to make others feel seen, heard, and valued, right? Man, what a way to make people feel seen than calling out their name. If you
Absolutely.
and think about it, you talked about it at the front door. Leaders, go walk the hallway, go walk the cubicles, and then just pop in. Hey, Bethany, how you doing? Hey, Brandy, how was
Mhm.
your kids' ball game last night?
Right.
Oh my
Right.
gosh. saying
Huge.
their name and then naming something that you noticed and paid attention to, I
Yes.
now, as the receiver of that, as your teammate, feel seen, heard, and valued. You you sought me out. You
Right.
said something that you noticed about me that was for the most part positive, and
Mm-hmm.
we're engaging, and it's going to just elevate that relationship.
Yeah.
Oh, so good.
It makes me think of a while ago. I try to spend at least one day a week with my grandsons, and my oldest grandson's name is Jensen. And my daughter called me and said, "Hey, Mom, what time are you going to be here today?" Because as soon as Jensen woke up this morning, he said, "When's Nana going to be here?"
Oh,
It's just that presence, the power of your presence.
mm,
Jensen didn't want anything from me. He just wanted me. And how often do we show up in those spaces and say, "Hey, Bethany, when are you going to get your lesson plans to me?" Or how are we doing on those achievement scores in reading? Always feeling like people want something from you. But what if you just showed up in that space and said, "Hey, I just wanted to check in on you. How are you doing? What's going on with Joey or your husband or something in their life?" You don't want anything from them. You just want to connect with them and
yeah.
show them that you care about them and that they matter.
Absolutely. And depending on your role, all roles have to be different. But if
Mm-hmm.
you have a smaller number of direct reports, schedule one-on-ones. It is
Yeah.
so important and let them run the agenda and just say, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to just serve you and, any way I can. What do you want to talk about,
Right.
at Brandy?" And then all
Mm-hmm.
of that. So, and if you're leading like a massive organization, you still have direct reports. So you need to be scheduling one-on-ones, but think about skip levels. Think about, again, walking those hallways. This is stuff that does not cost money. It just costs your time. So, you run your calendar. Don't let your calendar or your inbox run you. It,
That's right.
just step in and value your people. I love it. So, yes, you can bring love and joy to work. I love it.
You can. And another simple strategy that you can use is when you have a meeting with them, when you show up for them, don't ask them to come to your space. You go to theirs. Show up in
Yes.
their
Oh.
classroom, go to their office. Let them know that they don't always have to come to you.
That is a good leader move. Write that one
Mhm.
down. Put it on a sticky note, everybody. Unless you're driving, then add an
Yeah.
audio note. So as we talk about, okay, I'm building hope in myself. I'm turning now outwards and I'm helping others feel seen, heard, valued, and I'm doing it through actions of love and joy. How can we now start sparking hope in others?
Yeah, if you start doing some of these things, I mean, you're modeling some
Mm,
very important, simple, actionable steps to spark hope. And then I think you can also talk about it. Talk about how what we measure is what grows. So let's say in your school district, you notice that that trust is low. Let's just use trust, because trust is a high leverage, important thing that we need to foster in our schools and our organizations. And if
mhm.
you notice that trust is low, start identifying the steps you want to take to build trust with one another. And how better to build trust than to start showing up for people. Start showing that, you know what, if I say I'm going to do something, you can count on me. And then create a scoreboard and start measuring that and seeing how that moves the needle in your organization. And it doesn't have to be a grand scoreboard for the entire organization. Maybe you pair people. And Bethany, maybe you and I are accountability partners and we are trying to foster something in our team. Or maybe within your PLC, you're trying to foster that trust. And so you identify some metrics and some things, some actionable steps that you want to take in your PLC to foster that. It's just those small, consistent actions that really make the big difference.
It's so true. And it goes back to, again, I'm going to point it out again. Something else you already talked about. You're always connecting things. Is you got to practice what you preach, right?
Yeah,
Or live out what you're teaching.
right.
So good. All right. So, as we kind of wrap up, we've talked about bringing hope, joy, love, and it's going to build now. All of those things is going to build connection on your team. It's going to build resilience on your team. So, what are some key takeaways for our listeners as they think about these things that they need to turn and go actually apply in their leadership?
I am going to give you three key takeaways. One,
Awesome.
Start with you. So begin an intentional practice of self-reflection. I do this through journaling. In the morning when I get up, I do my Bible reading and then I pull out my journal and it's not a lengthy journal entry every day. Some days it's just a few notes. It's an intention that I set or an obstacle I'm grappling with, but I journal about that. And then I go back and I read it and I self reflect, and that helps me to see how I'm progressing with my goals.
Mm.
So self reflection is really important. The other, number two, is self assessment. If you haven't done a self assessment in a while, Enneagram is a free one. Just Google free Enneagram, take that assessment, and then head over to the Enneagram Institute and check out the 9 typologies. There are 9 that give you a lot of description on each typology. And for me, as a type 3, it really resonated and it helped me to improve my leadership when I did that. So, reflection, self assessment. And then the third one, you got to do something. You have to take action. And that's a choice. Taking action is a choice and it requires courage. So step out in courage today, take action, and just do one small thing and then build on that. Do some habit stacking. Build on, maybe you start with self reflection and then you decide to start making connections by scheduling classroom visits, whatever it is. Start small and then just build from there. So self reflection, self assessment, and start small and take action.
Oh, I love it. So good. It doesn't matter if we don't take action on these things too. All
Right.
right. So you just told us the things that we should do, right? We have self-reflection, we have self-assessment, and then take action, small steps. But what's something we shouldn't do? If you came to us and said, "All right, here is one poor decision you leaders really need to avoid. Come on. Don't do this one thing. You're better than that." What would that
Mhm.
one poor decision be that we need to avoid?
It's a poor decision that I think we have all made. I have certainly made it more than one time in my leadership journey. And that is getting stuck in my head, getting in my own way. And
Right.
so, what I would encourage people to do is just get out of your head. I had a coach once, Bethany, that said, "You're just not that important. People don't think about you as much as you think that they think about you." And
True statement.
so there's only one person, or one, God is the only person that you have to answer to at the end of your days. So it doesn't matter what other people think about you. It doesn't matter. Get out of your head and lead with hope.
I think that one was for me. I will take that and put it in my pocket. I get lost in my head a lot. All right, Brandy, where can our listeners go to learn more about you, Spark EDU, and Hope? Just the
Yes.
framework. I know you have a book, so tell us about where we can get that. Where can we go to get all this stuff?
Absolutely. So my business is called Spark Hope EDU, and you can head over to my website, sparkhopeedu.com, and I'm on all of the socials, and you can find that on my website. I would encourage you, if you're at all interested in this idea of hope, to book a free consultation. I'm doing a Hope Fueled Leadership Kickstart where we do 3 key assessments, and then we analyze those and create a hope and action plan for your life and your leadership. There's so much being put on leaders' plates today, and it just helps them to sort through the chaos and bring some confidence and connection and courage back into their leadership, reclaiming their vision for the future. So I would encourage you to book a free consultation, and I can share more with you about that. And of course, my book, yes, Lead with Hope, Building a System of Self-Efficacy, and that is available on Amazon. So check it out.
I love it. All right, guys, I'm going to have links all in there as well as to the Enneagram because that's also a cool thing. But I just
Mhm.
want to remind you even Michael Jordan had a coach, even the
Yes.
Olympians have coaches. We all need a coach, someone to help us see from a different perspective our
Mhm.
situation and help us reflect more on that. And Brandi, man, she is just so qualified. Not only has she been there, gone through that, and has the t-shirt, but she is certified in so many things, all the John Maxwell things and Enneagram and Patrick Lencioni's The Working Genius. I mean, all the things. So definitely reach out to her for that. And Brandi, thank you so much for being here. It's just been such a pleasure getting to know you and just learning from you. And I just love what you're bringing to leadership with bringing back how to find hope, because it feels like sometimes we're walking in wet cement and it
Mhm.
just feels like we're all doomed to, I don't know, do the same
Yeah.
thing every day. And you're bringing it back. You're bringing back our energy and our passion, all of those things. So thank you for what you're doing.
Thank you for having me on the show today, Bethany. I appreciate it.
All right, guys, until next time, continue putting in the work of building your life and leadership on the rocks, the essential rocks. God bless. Remember, the most essential rock you can build your life and leadership on is the rock of Jesus Christ. Today's Bible verse comes from Romans chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to his purpose.